Hello, my dear students. Today we're going to start a new lesson, the geography of ancient Egypt. I've prepared you two videos that explains the map of Egypt and how the ancient Egyptians divided Egypt into two kingdoms, the upper and lower parts of Egypt. Here they are.
Hello students, your goal today is to watch this video carefully and to take notes on the provided Google document to get a general understanding about the geography of ancient Egypt. When you are finished watching this video, you will be creating a map about what you have learned. Egypt is located on the continent of Africa. It is in the northeastern corner of the continent. It is situated at the meeting point of Africa and Asia. Egypt is bordered by the Mediterranean Sea to the north, while the Red Sea borders Egypt to the east.
The Nile is the longest river in the world, flowing more than 4,000 miles through Africa to the Mediterranean Sea. Every summer, the Nile floods because of heavy rainfall in Central Africa. When the floods recede, they leave behind silt, a layer of rich topsoil that transforms the otherwise barren desert into fertile farmland. It was along this river, and because of it, that Egyptian civilization rose and flourished some 5,000 years ago. The Nile was Egypt's most precious resource, but Egyptians had to cooperate to make it work for them.
Egypt is called the gift of the Nile because without the Nile, Egypt would have remained a desert. The Nile brought water and fine, fertile silt to the deserts in Egypt. The Nile River extends across the entire length of the country from north to south. It begins in the mountains of Africa and empties into the Mediterranean Sea. Ancient Egypt had four main divisions of its land. The first two being the Upper and Lower Egypt. It may seem odd that the Upper Egypt consists of the narrow strip of land located south of the delta. Lower Egypt contains the Nile River Delta, which is made by the river as it empties into the Mediterranean Sea. The ancient Egyptians thought of Egypt as being divided into two types of land, the Black Land and the Red Land. The Black Land was the fertile land on the banks of the Nile. Ancient Egyptians used this land for growing their crops. This was the only land in ancient Egypt that could be farmed because of a layer of rich black silt that was deposited there every year after the Nile flooded. The Red Land was the barren desert that protected Egypt on two sides. These deserts separated ancient Egypt from neighboring countries and invading armies. They also provided the ancient Egyptians with a source for precious metals and semi-precious stones. Most of Egypt is desert. To the east of the Nile River is the smaller Eastern Desert. West of the Nile is the Western Desert. The Western Desert is part of the Sahara Desert, which makes up most of northern Africa. Egypt is surrounded by natural barriers: the deserts, mountains, and Mediterranean Sea. These barriers provided protection to the Egyptian people.
Of water, you can see the Mediterranean Sea. To the north, you can see the Red Sea. To the east of Egypt, and then you can see the Nile River here at the center. The green area around the Nile River is the Nile floodplain. Here in the north, emptying into the Mediterranean Sea, is the Nile Delta. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that, and you can see all of this fertile land here. In the Nile Delta, lots of cities in ancient Egypt. You can see also here the city of Memphis, which was the capital of the Old Kingdom. Now, here and there, you see some green spots in the desert. These are oases. An oasis looks like this. It's a small pond or lake, in some cases a rather large pond or lake in the middle of the desert. So this is Lower Egypt. Now keep in mind when we talk about Upper and Lower Egypt, the Egyptians didn't have a map like we do where everything points north. They thought about everything as either being upriver or downriver. So Upper Egypt is upriver, Lower Egypt is downriver. Looking at Lower Egypt one more time, you can see the Sinai Peninsula. This is a divider between the continents of Africa and Asia, Egypt being on the northeast corner of the continent of Africa. And then we go to Upper Egypt. This is where the New Kingdom's going to be based. Here on the bend in the river, you can see the city of Thebes, which would be the capital of the New Kingdom. Now, if we go up north just a little bit, we can see Amarna, a capital that was briefly established by the pharaoh Akhenaten. So if we go ahead and zoom out, we can see that Memphis is here in Lower Egypt, Thebes is here in Upper Egypt, and Amarna is here kind of in the middle, like I said, served as a capital very, very briefly. And that should get you nice and prepared for your map quiz. So
then we will go to the climate in ancient Egypt. Let's see. During the ancient times, the weather was much same as today. It was hot, with a dry desert and with very little rainfall. Winds were coming off the Mediterranean Sea, was causing the temperature to be high in the interior in the summer season. You know that in some areas which are around the Mediterranean Sea, when there were winds coming off the Mediterranean Sea, it was causing the temperature to be high in the interior in the summer season. Okay, a dry wind called Khamaseen comes between months of March and May, which are probably still coming nowadays. Winter temperatures can drop as low as -16 degrees Celsius during the night in some towns. The winter temperatures can drop as low as -16 degrees Celsius in the ancient times. Now, in the cold weather and during winter season, there is no negative temperatures, right? There's no temperature below zero now in Egypt. So this was happening only in ancient times. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you. Bye bye.